The Cincinnati Reds opening day roster is set and it's ready to get the season started off with a bang.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Stephen Offenbaker. He's Jeff Carr. This is Locked On Reds. We are so glad you are here for today's show that's brought to you by MLB The Show 26. Visit MLBTheShow.com/locked-on and use the code LOCKEDON to unlock a pack for use in Diamond Dynasty. Available now on PlayStation 5, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. Rated E for everyone. All right, a little bit later on today's show, we are going to talk about some impactful call-ups to watch for in the 2026 season. And we're also going to be talking about which of those guys that are down in Louisville are going to make the most impact in AAA. We got a lot of that coming for you a little bit later in today's show. But where we are going to start is that the opening day roster, it is set, it is done. We know what the 2026 Cincinnati Reds look like. And if you've been listening every day, you knew a week ago because we told you. We're going to get into the opening day roster, Jeff. There were no surprises, at least for you and I. It went exactly how we thought it should go, exactly how we thought it was going to go. And now the only question is what kind of rotation Tito is going to put in place to move all these guys around and get them into positions and get the lineup set.
Steve, how's your finger? You blister free, right? No blisters whatsoever.
I got at least an inning in
okay.
my hand. I got at least an inning.
That's good. That's good. I think they might need us because it seems like everybody's getting a blister out in Arizona these days. The good news is Brady Singer, fine, good to go. Nick Lodolo, he got himself a blister on Sunday. Haven't seen any further updates beyond the fact that it was caught early enough that they were able to treat it. It did not rip or anything like that while he was pitching. And so hopefully he doesn't miss any time. And if he does, maybe his first start just gets pushed back a little bit. I think that would be probably what we're looking at, but we'll wait for a concrete update on that because as it stands, Nick Lodolo, number 2 pitcher in this rotation, pretty much everything is set. If you listen to what we had to say, we told you what this roster would look like. Really, the only drama that anyone was watching over the weekend was what does the bullpen look like at the end and who makes that final spot on the bench. Well, the bullpen was pretty much answered on Friday, and then Nathaniel Lowe was announced on Sunday to have won that final bench spot. There's a couple of different reasons as to why. Sam Moll doesn't have any options. So if you choose no out of the gate, he's a free agent or he goes to waivers, and then he's picked up by somebody. And so the Reds are at least going to give him a shot while Caleb Ferguson is on the IL to start the year with an oblique injury. Hopefully that's short. But Sam Moll has looked pretty good this spring and much better than he looked last spring. Think he'll be all right. Nathaniel Lowe, on the other hand, Nick Krall must be living right, man, because Nathaniel Lowe was available for nothing. The Reds got him for nothing. He is a veteran that has a back of the baseball card that you can trust, that you can rely on, and he is going to be a welcome addition to this bench.
Yeah, Nate Lowe was a big get for this team, and I know that seems kind of odd to say in a season where they overhauled the bullpen, where they brought in Eugenio Suarez to be the big bopper, and we're talking about Nate Lowe being a big get. He was a big get. In fact, he's such a big get that we're going to talk about him in a special show in the feed a little bit later today. We'll see that come out. So we'll do a deep dive on his stats and why we're so excited. But let me just preview that by saying that this is a guy with a ton of experience, a guy that has done it before, a guy that can hit for some power, and a guy that understands his role on this team is to be an end of the bench pinch hitter, fill in a little bit at first base when they need him to, fill in a little bit at DH if they need him to, but he has a role. He's going to be a role player, and he has embraced that. He was told directly, this is the job we would have for you, and he said, give it to me, Skip. I'm ready to go. That's what I love about this hire. He's not a guy that's angling to be a starter and, take a position away from somebody else. He knows that he is backing up Sal Stewart, and he understands that. And I think he's a big, tremendous get for this team. I look at the position player group, and it went exactly how we thought. It was a battle between JJ Bleday and Will Benson, and and Will Benson wins that battle. And I'm a little surprised, actually. We've joked around here that, Will Benson must have done something to Terry Francona out in Cleveland and that he just wasn't going to get an opportunity. But Will Benson has played his way into an opportunity. Now, I know JJ Bleday had a decent spring. And we also have given you the numbers that say he wasn't always facing the same level of competition that Will Benson was facing based on the metrics. JJ Bleday is a great insurance policy to have down in AAA. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment, because I think it was a brilliant move to bring him in and have that spare part, that one guy you could go to immediately that could give you at least short term some decent play in the outfield. So I look at all these things. I look at how the bullpen has shaken out. The fact that they're going with 6 starting pitchers that takes up a bullpen spot. I think, the bullpen group that they have now, fresh, the start of the year, that's going to be fine. Sam Moll has a lot to prove. And now he's getting an opportunity to go to Cincinnati and prove it, show that he's still got it, show that he can still be that Sam Moll that he was when he first came to Cincinnati and be effective. Because then you run into a really great problem is when Caleb Ferguson comes back, what do you do with Sam Moll? What do you do with this bullpen? And if the starting pitching has sorted itself out by then and these guys are stretched out, it may become a moot point and you just drop Caleb Ferguson in and you send a starter out to work down in Louisville and say stretch it out. So the Reds have a lot of options. This group that Nick Krall and Terry Francona have put together to take to Cincinnati is a team that's ready to compete, even with the starting pitchers hitting a little speed bump. This is still a formidable group of players that should win a lot of baseball games right out of the gate.
Well, and I think it's important too. Like, a lot of folks are worried about different health things or different ineffectiveness during spring training from the pitching staff. And a lot of folks are really excited about how the lineup went. And for me, I think that is best case scenario. We saw best case scenario this spring training for the Cincinnati Reds ball club, because I trust that the pitching staff is going to be fine. And I also trust that some of what the Reds did with the bat will translate to the regular season. I'm not saying all of it. I don't think Matt McClain's going to hit over 500. I don't think Rece Hinds is going to hit over 500, but we're going to see these guys be very effective in key moments for the Reds. Because if you were to ask me during spring training, if at the end of it we saw that the pitching staff allowed no runs whatsoever, but the lineup produced no runs whatsoever, then I would be worried. But they built up their confidence over spring training. And this pitching staff has enough confidence to know that what they were doing while they were warming up is not who they are when they will be hot and ready to go for the regular season. So I think that ultimately we saw exactly what we needed to see from all of this. The other part about the opening day roster, Steve, that I kind of wanted to just briefly discuss before we move along to who's going to be the most impactful non-opening day roster player is the fact that we're hearing some chatter that the last couple of spring training games where Sal Stewart hit cleanup, well, that's not just a spring training thing. There's a chance that the 3, 4, 5 in the middle of the Reds order could be Ellie, Sal, Gino, rather than Ellie, Gino, Sal, as we kind of figured it would be. I don't know that I buy into that. And I think that that's a lot of pressure to put on Sal to start the season. What say you?
You're telling me there's a chance? No, I think that I think that Sal Stewart's going to hit 5, just like Terry Francona said he was going to, and that Gino was brought in here and given the contract and has the resume that he's going to start the season at cleanup. Now, who knows how that plays out through the course of a season? But when that opening day roster gets written down, Gino's batting 4th. And Sal Stewart might play his way into that. He might play there on the days they rest Gino. Gino's not going to play all 162. Somebody else is going to have to hit cleanup a little bit. That could be Sal Stewart. And they gave him some looks in spring just to get him a little bit adjusted and comfortable doing that when he has to. He's not going to start the season out there. Get out of here with that. You know what? This is the time of spring where everything's decided. There's nothing to talk about. Reporters have to fill column inches, and they got to go, oh my God, did you see Sal Stewart? He batted cleanup. I bet that could be a thing. Let's write that down. Somebody write that. Oh, wait, I'm writing that down. That's how that went. I'm not worried about it. Sal Stewart's batting 5th.
Yeah, file that into the same filing cabinet where people were talking about Rece Hinds over Noelvi Marte in right field. Yep. Guess what happened there? Spoiler alert. It's Noelvi Marte. But that's not to say that Rece Hinds won't have an impact on this team, because coming up next, there's going to be some impact players that didn't make the opening day roster. MLB The Show is already out, and if you haven't gotten it already, you're already falling behind in the Diamond Dynasty. Some strong teams out there. I've put together a nice one myself, got a couple of good players on there. Chase Burns is on my rotation. I got Ellie De La Cruz as my shortstop, feeling good about my Diamond Dynasty team. And you can get a jump start on your Diamond Dynasty team with a special promo code, and we got a special URL for you today. If you go to MLBTHE.show/locked on and you use the code LOCKEDON, you'll get a free pack to use in Diamond Dynasty. Go build that Diamond Dynasty team in MLB The Show 26 right now with the help of Locked On Reds, because we got that special promo code. Plus, you can jump into franchise mode, road to the show. So much is happening on this MLB The Show 26, and it'll get you ready for opening day. MLB The Show 26 is out now on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, and Nintendo Switch. It's ready for everyone. Make sure you go get yourself a copy today.
Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position that you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location, so that you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your posts. And here is the stat that says it all. In the minute that I'm going to be talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of Locked On Reds will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support Locked On Reds by saying you heard about Indeed on this show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
LockedOnReds.supercast.com. Go get yourself some every day. Get an ad-free feed, get Discord access, and so much more. And if you use the promo code MARCH now through the end of March, you'll get a free month of the Locked On Reds Everydayer Club. Get so many great things ad-free. That includes, by the way, great episode that I got the chance to do with all of the NL Central hosts previewing the division, telling them what's what, after we all admitted that the Brewers have to be proven guilty and till otherwise, because the Brewers are the Brewers. But that is out now as well. So go check it out today. All right, Steve, the opening day roster, it's not a final draft. It's not the final edition of the Cincinnati Reds roster when it comes to the end of the season, because as it was noted last year, the Reds had 54 players hit the field for them in some way, shape, or form, whether they were pitching, whether they were hitting, or in the course of Ryan Vlad, he was a defensive replacement that didn't actually log a plate appearance, but he was one of the 54. So there's definitely a lot more guys that are going to hit the field than just these 26 dudes. And when it comes to who the Reds sent down to Louisville, there's definitely a number of them that are going to jump up and do the thing. But I'll tell you first who is going to be the most impactful in my mind. It's Rece Hinds. Rece Hinds, albeit everybody knows who he is, right? We've seen enough to know that he's just going to strike out. He's a strikeout machine. He's barely had any major league plate appearances. The sample size is too tiny. And one of the things that he did super well last year after being sent down to AAA for the rest of the season, he put together over 440 plate appearances and only struck out 25% of the time. Steve, that is awesome. A huge drop year over year in strikeout percentage at the AAA level. Say nothing of the fact that he struck out 47% of the time while he was in the major leagues last year. He really reined that in. And because of that, his slash line at AAA last year was 308, 358, and 596. Sorry, I tried to commit that to memory. Should have wrote it down. Anyway, it was 300, 340, and 500 when it came to his slash line. So I really think that there's something there. But as we've said, all he needs is an opportunity. He's not going to force his way onto the roster, but when he gets it, boy, is he going to go. I expect it.
And it's not going to be a straight road to Cincinnati. He's got yet another obstacle, another roadblock, another speed bump, and that thing is called JJ Bleday. Because when the Reds need an outfielder, in 2026, their first phone call is going to be to JJ Bleday. So Rece Hinds is going to have to wait even longer in line in order to get that opportunity that you're right, he probably deserves. He has not really had a fair long-term look at the big league level, but I don't know that that's going to come this year, because if we go down to 2 outfielders, there's bigger problems than is Rece Hinds going to get an opportunity. It's
right.
Problematic. I look at this AAA roster and, who can be impactful in Louisville and then play their way into a call up. I think this is the year that Chase Petty reignites the fire, reignites the conversation, and reignites the hype. I think that given the way his debut went, given the way his limited big league opportunity went, everybody kind of cooled on him a little bit. And I think this is where he has now an opportunity to play his way back into the limelight, especially given the fact that the Reds have 6 starters in Cincinnati right now, and he doesn't have Brandon Williamson or Chase Burns or Rhett Lauder or one of those guys being billed as the number 1 starter down in Louisville. Right now, Chase Petty is the number 1 starter down in Louisville with Julian Aguiar coming back from injury. So I think that Chase Petty is going to take advantage of that opportunity. He's going to be the guy that kind of lights it up a little bit when the AAA season starts. And he's going to be the guy that everybody's talking about going, oh, I think he's back. All right, let's go. So I look forward to seeing what he does down there and playing himself in an opportunity, because there will come a point in the 2026 season where Chase Petty gets an opportunity to pitch at the big league level. Doesn't necessarily mean injury. Could be a doubleheader from a rain delay. There will be a lane where we see Chase Petty at the big league level.
And hopefully it'll be a little bit more of a service than what he got last year, where it was just like, oh, dear Lord, somebody down in Louisville, Chase, get on up here. We need somebody to throw. And that's basically the pomp and circumstance that led to his first call up in his major league debut. It was, dear God, help. And he was there to throw innings. He got shelled. And so now everybody thinks that's who he is. But the spring breakout game, it was just a few days ago, in which he was pitching against the top prospects from the Giants organization. He threw 4 shutout innings with 1 hit allowed, no walks, 6 strikeouts, and his fastball topped 102 miles an hour. Like, there is still a lot there left in the tank for Chase Petty to prove. And I think that he's a guy that we will see at some point this year. Totally agree with you on that. Bleday is interesting because I think Bleday is a perfect like yin and yang when it comes to hitting style of Will Benson. Will Benson's a lot of power. JJ Bleday's a lot of contact. And so if there's a point this year where we see Will Benson struggle and he's striking out too much and he's not hitting the ball as well as they had hoped, they're going to swap him out with JJ Bleday and see if that works out better. And so I could see that with you. I think that there's an area where JJ Bleday earns it, as opposed to Rece Hinds, where it's going to be like, there goes my hero. Everybody's hurt. Rece Hinds, please help. And that kind of feels like what is going to preempt his call up. The other guy that I've marked, and there's definitely a number of bullpen guys. We saw Luis May and Zach Maxwell at different points last year. I think that they will be a big part of this season. But another guy that I marked, and we talked about him just a smidge this spring training, is Hagen Danner. Hagen Danner was a name that I didn't know from Adam. You could have said Hagen Danner, and I'd have been like, Gesundheit. I don't know. Because when he was signed,
are you kidding? You would have thought that was ice cream. Don't even
Hagen Danner.
pretend.
Yeah, Hagen-Dazs's like redheaded stepchild. Yeah, something like that. Oh my gosh, Hagen Danner watches this, he's going to be like, "Who are these idiots?" Anyway, Hagen Danner has the stuff. His fastball and his slider. Fastball averages 98 miles an hour. Slider just snaps off. And so if you throw those two back to back, and if he tunnels them correctly, he could pretty much be unhittable. His whole thing is the control thing, just like May and Maxwell. He's got to rein in the walks a little bit. Didn't really bite him that much this spring training. We'll see how he pitches in Louisville, but he was signed to a minor league deal, so they didn't have to pass him through waivers whenever they said, nah, you're not going to make the opening day roster, and they were able to hold on to him as organizational depth. We're going to see him at some point. I think that he's going to have a positive effect on this bullpen. Like, I think a lot of folks wanted to make a lot out of the injury to Caleb Ferguson, and while it does stink that one of the marquee signings for this bullpen in the offseason is already hurt, I think that there's a lot more depth to this bullpen than people want to believe, and Hagen Danner's part of that.
Yeah, I'm still seeing comments that say the bullpen's not as good. The bullpen's not better.
I think it's better.
The bullpen's better.
Yeah.
The bullpen's better. And I look forward to watching it play out, Jeff, because I do think it's better. And I think it's going to be one of the things we point to at the end of the season when we win a playoff series that helped contribute to that. Listen, Jeff, we're talking about guys that have already been at the big league level, have already made their debuts, have already done some things, and how they might impact coming out of Louisville in the 2026 season. But there are also a couple guys playing down in the minor leagues, playing at Louisville, that could make their debuts in 2026 and also provide a little bit of impact on the big league club in 2026. We're talking about those guys coming up next.
Hey, this is Jeff Carr from Locked On Reds. And, I've reached the point in my life where my wife and I are looking toward the future. We've got the house. We've got the career. We even have an awesome dog. But now we need to secure that future. That's where Ethos comes in for us. When I look at this insurance or that insurance and I try to pick one, I might as well be reading an entirely different language. Ethos clears up the noise and gets me set up with exactly what I need, because Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, and it's 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/lockedonmlb. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get a free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/lockedonmlb. That's ethos.com/lockedonmlb, ethos.com/lockedonmlb. Application times and rates may vary. Wardrobe change. The tournament is here. One of the best times of the year. Brackets and buzzer beaters, upsets, and more. It's nonstop action from tip-off to the final cut down of the nets. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a way to stay in the action all tournament long. In fact, here's the best part. You get $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. I don't know about you, but that's awesome, because my tournament bracket looked amazing after day one. I only missed one pick. Then I missed like 7 the next day, because that's what the tournament does. You can mix it up however you want. Game picks, futures, and even same-game parlays for bigger potential payouts. It's perfect for the tournament, because every day there's something new. Visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action.
If you can't watch us here on YouTube, we are in every single audio podcast feed out there, I think. If you find one we're not and you need us there, let Jeff know. We can probably make it happen for you. That's also where the Everydayer Club lives. $5 a month, $50 a year. Promo code MARCH for a free first month. Check it out. Link is down in the show description. All right, Jeff, we talked about some of the guys that we've seen. They've been in a big league uniform. They've been in a big league game. We've talked about what they might do to contribute in 2026. But there are a couple guys down in the minor leagues that could potentially, if everything goes their way, see their debuts come in 2026, make their big league debuts for the Reds. And those players could actually provide some impact for the Reds, depending on how things go. Now, the battle in the outfield, the fact that we're talking a lot about Rece Hinds, the fact that JJ Bleday with his big league experience is sitting in Louisville, might make it harder for the first guy that I'm going to bring up, but that's Hector Rodriguez. We've been talking about him for a couple years now, and the possibility of him patrolling the outfield in Cincinnati in 2026, but he's probably third now, if we're being realistic, third on the call-up list for an outfielder for the Reds in 2026, and it might be a big ask for the Reds to work their way all the way to him, unless we just get to September and it's a predetermined cup of coffee kind of call-up.
Is he third? Like him or Blake Dunn?
I would think so, or maybe fourth, Blake Dunn. Okay, that's fair too. I think it's coin flip. If they get through JJ Bleday and they get through Rece Hinds, I think you could coin flip at that point whether you want to take a look at Hector Rodriguez and have him make his debut, or if you want to give Blake Dunn another opportunity. Half 6 of one, half dozen of another.
I think it's interesting because the outfield for the Reds is the land of opportunity. We've said this multiple times. Like, there's nobody that's just standing head and shoulders above anybody else that you're like, this guy must play. Like, maybe that's TJ Friedel, but even the Reds are telling us that they want to cut back on his playing time, not because he's bad, but because they want to keep him more healthy. And so with all of that, like, Hector Rodriguez should be much higher up on this list. Hasn't made his major league debut yet. Shows a lot of potential at the plate, a lot of great contact, a lot of great line drive skills. Here's the problem. He entered spring training with a real big chance. He had a chance to prove himself. He had a chance to put himself up on that list. And I think he did the opposite. I think he pushed himself down the list. I know that, we try to tell you that spring training doesn't affect a lot of guys, but for dudes that ain't debuted yet, it is super important. And if it was with the glove or with the bat, I wasn't impressed with Hector Rodriguez. There's just nothing that pointed to, I need to see more of this guy in a regular season ballgame. And so I think if anything, he pushed himself back from not only when he gets called up, but who gets called up before him. And so for me, I would put him fourth. I would say I would rather see Bleday, Hinds, and Dunn before I see Hector Rodriguez, because it just feels as though you are flipping a coin anytime he is involved in a play, whether that be with the bat or with the glove.
Yeah, he looked a little bit like Adam Dunn defensively when he was patrolling the outfield out there. He was not
better, to be honest.
He was not, and that's fair, a fair observation. Listen, there's another guy I want to talk about just a little bit, because I think he is much more of a long shot. I know everybody wants to see him some way, somehow, but I don't think it's going to happen this season, and that is Edwin Arroyo. I love what he's able to do defensively. I love that he is so good in the field, but I don't think the bat is quite there yet. I think another season in the minor leagues to develop a little bit more is what he really needs. Now, again, in a crunch, in an emergency, maybe he finds a way up to Cincinnati in 2026, but I think it's much more likely that he spends the year in the minor leagues and then battles for a roster spot in 2027 or 8 or whenever we have baseball again after this season.
I could see him get into the major leagues if there is a pinch situation. Like if you've got a big injury, which hopefully that doesn't happen, but if you've got a big injury, I think they might rush him a little bit. And I don't know that it'd be rushing, because it's not as if we're talking about Jose Barrero where he would be skipping an entire level. He would be, missing part of his development. Because I kind of feel like Edwin Arroyo, although he lost 2024, looked a lot better in 2025, made it to AAA, hit the ball decently well. I'd still like to see a little bit more of that to know exactly if that's who he is or not. But I think we will. Regardless of his performance, I wouldn't expect a call up any time before July from Edwin Arroyo, if not August or September at this point, because ideally there isn't that big injury where the Reds have to rush him up. And then he is only trying to push his way onto the roster, which I think would be really difficult. And that's why we talked about, Nathaniel Lowe being on the bench. The way that the Reds roster is set up, you've got so many different guys that can play so many different positions. So you don't have to carry that utility infielder on your bench that probably is suspect with the bat, but he can play good defense at multiple positions, because they got guys like Spencer Steer, Sal Stewart, Matt McClain, all those guys that can move around when you need them to. And they're going to be able to cover multiple positions for you. That's why your bench has 2 outfielders and a first baseman.
It's interesting to that point and what you're saying. It's interesting that an injury anywhere, any position on the big league roster could be a call up for JJ Bleday, because if the injury is in the outfield, you're calling up JJ Bleday. If the injury is on the infield, you're moving Spencer Steer in and you're calling up JJ Bleday. So the versatility that you're talking about also, I think, is opportunity for JJ Bleday, because he's probably the first call no matter what happens.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that the Reds have set their roster up accordingly that way. There's a lot of folks that were wondering why they didn't go sign a utility infielder or anything like that. Because the only guy that they had that fit that profile is Garrett Hampson. And they told him specifically he wasn't going to make the major league roster. And I doubt that he accepts an appointment to Louisville unless he just doesn't, his agent doesn't feel like he's getting any offers from any other team, which, that could happen too. But I still don't believe that the Reds need that player because of how their roster is currently set up. So position-wise, not sure who we see first. Pitcher-wise, Jose Franco's got to be on the list. I don't know how quickly that's going to happen. Like you mentioned, Chase Petty is definitely getting the call of guys who aren't currently in the major leagues first. there might be an argument that Julian Aguiar gets a call next. And so Jose Franco's not even maybe second on that list, but probably at some point in the year, we see him get his debut. He was the minor league pitcher for the Reds last year, has a nice pitch mix. He's not going to blow you away with his stuff, but his control is fantastic. And so maybe that is a starter. Maybe that's as a reliever. Could depend on what the Reds' needs are at that point in time. But he is a guy that I think that we will see at some point, and he didn't earn minor league pitcher of the year because he stunk. Obviously, he's pretty good. And so what he looks like whenever he gets to the major leagues, that'll be intriguing to see. I just don't know that there's many other names beyond that I'm like, this dude's going to go off. Because even if you look at the AAA bullpen, outside of the guys that we've already talked about in Danner, May, and Maxwell, there's some other names on there like Kyle Nicholas, guy they traded for from Pittsburgh. And I think there's one other that I'm blanking on. I can picture him, but I can't picture his name, that I would call up before I'd call up anybody that has no major league experience whatsoever.
The interesting thing is all three of those names that you just mentioned have control issues. And I'm not talking about who gets to pick the restaurant. I'm talking about being able to find the strike zone. So all three of those guys struggle to find the strike zone at times. So if, a Franco can demonstrate control, he might be able to skip the line in order to get a big league debut.
Yes. And I think we will see him at some point though, but those are really the three guys. Like anybody else would be a surprise to me. Now there's definitely some other folks like Doug Gray who really tell you a lot about Reds minor leagues and stuff like that, but I don't know that he's got anybody else on his list that jumps to mind of a call up this year. And so it's Arroyo, it's Rodriguez, or it's Franco who I'm kind of looking out for.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. Hopefully everybody stays healthy and this doesn't even become a thing. But as you know, baseball is a very, very, very long season. We're probably going to see a few of these guys. And that is where we're going to wrap up this edition of Locked On Reds. Thanks as always for making Locked On Reds your first listen each and every day. We appreciate you being here. Make sure you click subscribe. Make sure you click that notification bell. We've got lots of stuff coming your way as we scream towards opening day. We buried the lead. It's this week. There's real baseball. Thank God. We're going to be in your feed each and every day, bringing you all of the news, the notes, the rumors, the information about your Cincinnati Reds. If you're in the audio feeds, thanks for making us your first listen. Go make Locked On MLB your second listen. Sully's going to have you covered all season long with Major League Baseball from a national perspective. Mike Stanton, former Reds pitcher, is also going to be over there with his show in the Locked On MLB feed, giving you baseball from a player's perspective. For the video, folks, stick around. We're going to redirect you over to Locked On's first ever 24/7 national YouTube channel, where all of the experts of the Locked On Network are talking ball 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We will be back in your feeds a little bit later today with a Nate Lowe breakdown, so you know exactly who this guy is and why Jeff Carr is very, very excited about him. We also will be back in your feeds tomorrow, getting you set for opening day, because it will only be a few days away. Until next time, for Jeff, I'm Steve. We're going to keep you locked on Reds every single day.
Not long now.
I am ready for some baseball. I'm excited.